KATC Weather Lab. Here's Rob's forecast.
Welcome back. Well, the song remains the same. The heat stays on across Acadiana, actually expands and intensifies this weekend into early next week. High summer heat on the way. And then the storm track continues across a good part of the center of the country where severe weather and heavy rainfall has been the norm for the last several weeks. So let's take a look at the big picture across the lower 48. We have this large upper level gyre or low pressure system that is kind of spinning out here in the Rockies, producing rain and snow, by the way, at elevation in the Colorado Rockies and other parts of the Rockies and high elevations up through Wyoming as well. But then spitting out disturbances that have been producing severe weather and heavy rainfall across portions of the plains through the Midwest and the Northeast earlier today. Things have settled down a little bit, but still the threat of severe weather tonight with severe thunderstorm watches across portions of Kansas into Missouri, and then flood watches farther to the south. A couple of severe thunderstorm warnings right now just north of the Red River in southern Oklahoma. Meanwhile, our weather nice and quiet and should stay that way, although we can't rule out an isolated shower for tomorrow. So here are all the rivers that are in flood stage and all the flood watches and flood warnings. These darker shades of green are flood warnings for portions of a good part of Kansas as well. And then let's take a look at the European model rainfall over the next week to 10 days. Some pretty heavy rains from the Dallas-Fort Worth area to portions of Oklahoma that don't need any more rainfall, where we have severe flooding, some flooding also in Arkansas, and all this getting into the Arkansas River that comes down and meets with the Mississippi, and then maybe some water coming down the Red River as well, although Red River is in very good stages compared to just about everything else. So here are the river forecasts right now. Current river stages that are in moderate or major stage, and you can see as you get from northeastern Oklahoma all the way up through South Dakota, major flooding still underway, and the same along the Mississippi. Now, the flood levels are going to be revised perhaps from Cairo on southward, so we're going to have to watch things very closely. Chaffalaya River at Beulah Rose, current stage has been holding right near 20 feet, and as we showed you a little bit earlier, compare what happened in 2011. We were close to 20 feet, just below that when the floodgates opened, and then we peaked about 2 weeks later, just a little bit over 23 feet, but that was a much drier basin. The peak might be higher this time. Corps of Engineers saying about a 1 to 3 foot rise on the Atchafalaya, right around the Beulah Rose area, a couple of feet perhaps as we get down toward, say, Morgan City, maybe a 1.5 feet or so. So we'll watch that. Mississippi River Landing, this is what we will watch. Now, this line flattens out when the floodgates are open right here on Sunday, but the levels have been awfully high, historically high, going back through March of this year. The number of days that the Mississippi River all the way down through Baton Rouge has been above flood stage has set all-time records. So a pretty serious situation. Now, what's going to happen when the floodgates are open at the Morganza Spillway? Well, water's already banking right on the spillway. The floodgates are right here. So to relieve some of the pressure here, we have to let some of the water out, and it gets into the open fields in the low-lying country, and that water from the Mississippi gets diverted into the Atchafalaya Basin. It works its way southward, getting just to about I-10, and then it gets a little bit more interesting because some of the levees diminish at this point, so we could see water trying to curl around and move back to the north and getting trapped perhaps by the Henderson levee. The water continues to move southward through the rest of the Atchafalaya Swamp and exits out through the Atchafalaya and Wax Lake outlets, which is good. This builds actually some nice coastline from sediment. And then if winds are strong, you got to watch for this. Tides are up, but what happens? The water can't evacuate in the Gulf, and we saw that affect Stevensville last week. So that's something that we'll watch for, and the question is, will we see backwater flooding? If the water gets high enough, the Henderson levee becomes the new levee, and will we see backwater flooding? Did not see it in 2011. Maybe this time. We still really can't tell you much. So in the near term, it looks nice and quiet weather-wise through tomorrow. Again, a fair to partly cloudy sky. Temperatures topping out in the lower 90s once again. We do have a frontal boundary that's going to be moving southward as we get into Thursday, and that may generate a shower or thunderstorm especially late in the day into the evening hours on Thursday. And then as we go down the road, that front sticks around for Friday, but then kind of washes out, and then the heat begins to build. Temperature-wise tonight, mid to upper 70s. Tomorrow, upper 80s to lower 90s once again with that heat index on the rise. So another summer evening, 76 the low, a few clouds late. Another hot one tomorrow with heat indices topping out in the upper 90s, maybe a stray shower at 10%. Rain chances improve a little bit late Thursday into Friday, but just scattered stuff, and that may carry into the weekend. But look at those temperatures, weekend and beyond, pushing well into the mid-90s. Heat indices well over 100.
We're ready for it, I guess.
Okay, we
I have no choice.
No.